Let's put some of the questions, though, that Gillingham supporters have been asking us to ask to Gillingham chairman Paul Scally. Paul, many people say that the writing really was on the wall last season, that you needed more investment, you didn't put it in, and therefore it's your fault.
Well, I think that's a fair point, but of course, you know, we've put in every penny that we've managed to achieve through the club since the ITV digital collapse. You know, we haven't had the funds, unfortunately. We battled to keep the club going, really, but we made every penny available to the manager to invest in a team, and we brought in 1 or 2 loan players. Unfortunately, it didn't do the trick.
Should you try to find more investors? Is there more people out there who want to invest in Gillingham?
Well, we're looking for investors every day of the week. It's very difficult to find anyone, and the right sort of people haven't come along. I've had to carry the can as best I can, and I'm prepared to do that. But you know, it's a difficult day for us all. But we're not finished. We're going to keep fighting, and we'll go forward.
Pete from Gravesend says, is the dream of a 25,000-seater stadium now so necessary?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we're not talking about, this is a blip, really. I mean, we'll go forward from here. We'll be stronger when we come back next year, and we'll rebuild our financial base. The stadium is something that will take the club forward for the next 50 years.
Very briefly, Paul, what about Stan Turnant, the manager? Is he going to stay? And what about the players who are out of contract?
Well, I'm meeting the players tomorrow, and I'm meeting Stan next weekend, and after that meeting we'll know whether Stan wants to stay and we can afford to keep Stan. If that's the case, then we'll take the club forward with Stan. If not, we'll find someone else. Lovely.
Thank you very much indeed, Paul Scally. So let's look back at that extraordinary day yesterday. One of the most historic in Gillingham Football Club. Let's see how it unfolded.
What's the dressing room like? I know they must be terribly down, the players.
Yes, very quiet, very flat, and it's a difficult one for them, really.
Bitterly disappointed. You know, a lot of the boys in there out of contract this year don't know what's happening, but they, you know, especially professional pride, wanted to make sure we didn't get relegated, and unfortunately we haven't been able to do it.
Absolutely gutted, absolutely gutted. They played fantastically well second half. We had the chances in injury time, though. It just didn't happen, unfortunately.
It's a massive blow for Medway as a whole, really, isn't it? Not just for Gillingham, as in Medway as a whole for the football.
The emotional impact of yesterday's defeat was pretty obvious, but relegation will also be a big financial blow to a club deep in debt. Revenue from sponsorship and broadcasting will be down by at least £250,000. Commercial sales will also be hit, and some supporters may defect to Charlton.
I think the problem is that Paul doesn't want to give up any control over the club. And nobody's going to give him money without some sort of say in how the club is run. So, you know, is Paul Scally actually doing his job? I have to ask it.
Now for some sport, and the Gills have begun another search for a new manager. Stan Turnant refused to sign a new contract this weekend following the team's relegation from the Championship.
Well, Chairman Paul Scally will be holding talks in the coming days in the hope of finding someone to guide the team back up to the Championship and out of League One next season. Keir McKenzie is in Chatham now. Keir, it's been a bad season and now the Gills have got more uncertainty.
Well, that's right. Last week they'd lost their place in the Championship. This week they've lost their manager, a man who'd done a brilliant job even if it wasn't quite enough to keep them out of League One. But because they've gone down, because there's going to be less money there just wasn't enough money to keep Stan Turnant. Stan Turnant's look of despondency said it all. Despite a very strong end to the season, the Gills hadn't quite done enough and were relegated to League One by a single goal. But Turnant, who'd only joined the club in December, had done a sterling job, and Chairman Paul Scally wanted to renew his contract, but with a drop in income of nearly £1 million at the club, the offer made to him simply wasn't enough.
I've had to rewrite the budgets in the last 4 days, and the funds we had available just didn't stretch to having Stan on what was in effect Championship money. And you know, if we were in a Championship, that would have probably been okay. But unfortunately, we couldn't come to any agreement on the level we're at now. And very sad, because Stan did a tremendous job.
One of the favourites to replace him is Stan Turnant's assistant, Ronnie Jepson, a man the fans would back, although there's doubts the Gills will make it back into the Championship very quickly.
I think he did a good job trying to keep them up, but it obviously wasn't enough. They had such a poor run at the beginning of the season. I don't think they were ever going to recover from it.
If that assistant manager does come, he's obviously got the same techniques as Stan Terrence, so I reckon we've got quite a good chance.
I mean, I would like to see them do well. Don't get me wrong, I would definitely like to see them do well. But I think it's going to take a couple of seasons to do it. But I think they will eventually do it.
Until the new manager comes, there are around a dozen players whose futures are in the balance. Among them, club captain and player of the year Paul Smith. It's likely other teams will be interested in him. And striker Mama Sidibe, who so far has turned down a new contract. So for both players and the fans, the sooner a new manager is announced, the better.